Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Torey and today we are working in my December daily album on story number 10. For this story, I am documenting decorating the Christmas tree. We waited until the 10th of the month to be able to get this fully completed because we really wanted Leland to be home with us and it just hadn't worked out that way until the 10th, and that was one of his bucket list items, was to decorate for Christmas. So I really wanted to make sure that he was home so that he could be included in that as well. Right here I am showing a bunch of random things that I was playing around with today. I had gotten this thought earlier today that I was wondering if I could use my Cricut brand felt and run it through my die cut machine with some of my die cuts to die cut out my own embellishment shapes out of felt, because I really do like using felt in my album, and it worked out really well. So I cut out 2 trees, 1 tag, and then I also had purchased some craft foam without any adhesive on it from Simon Says Stamp recently for their Black Friday sale, and I really wanted to try that as well. So I had die cut out the number 9 using that, and all of it worked beautifully. So I was super excited about that, and I just pulled them all over and had set them on my crafting table a little bit earlier today so that I would remember that I wanted to attempt to use those. So I'm going to jump right in and just start getting some of these photos cut and adhered. Just like last year, I took a bunch of photos when it came to decorating the Christmas tree. For the most part, the kids really just took ownership of that, but I did manage to get a photo of each of us with at least one ornament getting put on the tree, and then I managed to get a photo of all 3 of the kids sitting in front of the tree and kind of looking at it, which is this photo right here, and I absolutely adore this photo. So I'm adhering this one as a kind of larger photo on the back of story number 8. And I'm going to use that as like the main photo of this spread. Once I have that completed and my holes punched on that, I'm going to move on to the die cut Christmas tree. And that particular, I ran into some issues with this one. When I had originally planned this out, I don't think I took into consideration that my image would need to be reversed to fit correctly on this die cut Christmas tree. This is actually a picture that I took of myself in one of the ornaments that was hanging on the tree, and I really love it, but it just didn't work ultimately with this Christmas tree. And you can see me here kind of sussing it out and seeing if it will work. I ultimately end up just going for it to see, because if it doesn't work, I'm just going to pull it off, and then if it does work, then I can still use it. But unfortunately, once I get this adhered down and I start going and actually cutting out the edges of the Christmas tree, one of these little ridges just full on cuts out my whole face. So obviously I don't want to use that, because there's also not a ton of like visible decorations or anything like that on the tree either. So the rest of the photo itself didn't really make for a great just kind of background image. So I'm going to just tear that off once I realize that my face is cut off. And I'm going to just kind of set that aside and worry about that in a little bit. The next thing that I'm going to work on here is kind of getting my full page trimmed out for this layered template that I used in Photoshop. And this layered template is the Holiday Vibes 6x8 pack from In a Creative Bubble. So I am trimming this out to be larger than the 6x8 because I want it to be 7 inches by 8.25 inches. So I'm kind of guesstimating about how far down each side I'll need to cut. I'm sure I could have done this a better way to get more accurate and centered proportions, but today was one of those days where if it was going to go wrong, it was happening. So I wung it, and I figured that if it went wrong, then I was just going to end up redoing it because I had already had to do that anyways. So when I completed this layered template, I did leave 2 of the photo spots blank, and I just filled those boxes in with a solid color that matched from my photos. And then I took 2 pictures of the 2 trees that we have up in our house. We have our main Christmas tree, and then we also have a little mini Christmas tree in our entryway that you see when you first walk in the front door. And I didn't edit these photos at all. Like, you can see the other photos are very clearly edited, but the ones of the Christmas tree, I wanted to leave them unedited because I wanted you to see, or anybody who's looking at it really, I wanted it to be noticeable, like how the tree is decorated. I swear the kids only focused on the fronts of the trees and the bottoms of the trees, which is hilarious because I think that's what we all do when we first start decorating Christmas trees. So I am trying my hardest not to move ornaments around and just accept it as it is. I did write in my journaling about how they only put ornaments in the front of the trees, and on the bottom row, like the big tree that we have, there's multiple ornaments stacked on branches on the very bottom of the tree. And I'm just like, why would we do this? So regardless, anyways, I did pull out these puffy stickers from, I think they're from several years ago. I don't even know how I ended up with 2 packets, but I pulled out those, and I'm thinking I might want to use some of those in the spread today. And I also have reprinted a new photo for the back of that Christmas tree. I had pulled it out and laid my spread out to see if I really wanted to include it. And I just really, really liked the way that this die cut Christmas tree looked with the spread in general, and decided that I did want to move forward and include that in my page. So this bokeh photo of our Christmas tree I actually took right after we put the Christmas tree up, because like I said in a previous video, the very first thing that I do is take a bokeh photo of the Christmas tree and take photos of random things so that I can get that bokeh effect because I love it so much. So I'm going to pull out my scoreboard and just use that as a solid line to line up this particular edge. And then I'm just going to pull out an X-Acto knife. I had attempted to use my tiny scissors to cut this out in the first time, and I didn't like the way that it felt, if that makes sense. Like, it was just making me feel anxious. So I decided to grab my X-Acto knife and just cut these out, and it worked out a lot better. And I think it also went a lot quicker to do it this way as opposed to trying to cut this with my scissors. So that's how it looks. I think this looks a lot better than the first photo that I had on there. So I'm super happy that I did change photos. And then I'm pulling out my mini die cutting machine. And these numbers that I'm using here are actually a set of numbers that came with the mini die cutting machine. So I was super excited about that. This is the same number that I used to die cut out that 9 in my craft foam. And I'm just going to cut out the same 9 just in a piece of red cardstock. And I'm going to layer that on top of my actual foam 9. And it's going to make like a super dimensional foam, like kind of like a thickers type sticker, but it's not actually a sticker because there's no adhesive on it. But that's what it ends up looking like. And it's probably it's over 1/8 of an inch thick. So it's pretty hefty thickness wise. So I'm thinking I'm going to put that 9 right above where the sentiment is on this tree. And then I'm flipping it over and kind of messing around with the felt trees that I cut out to see if there was a specific layout or something that I wanted to do for the back of that to kind of add an embellishment there. I flip back over and I'm going to go ahead and commit to adhering this 9 down for my day number or my story number. I don't end up using the felt red tag that I cut or the white tree that I cut, but I will use that green tree. I'm tidying up just a little bit because it's getting a little chaotic here. Like my whole area, I think it's just because everything was going wrong. My whole area was just very, very chaotic. I'm pulling out this very large puffy sticker that says around the tree, and I'm going to place that above the children's head on this larger photo, and then pull out some of the stars from this puffy sticker set as well and place those around that title, I guess you could call it. I also lay that green tree above that, but I decided that I didn't want any more of the tree to be hidden than already was hidden, so I decided against that. I recently purchased these glitter gold brads from Michaels. So I'm pulling out one of those because I was very excited to use them, and I'm going to place that right in the middle of this green felt tree that I made, and that's what I'm going to go with. That's going to be my embellishment for the back of this tree page. It's very, very simple, and I think it's perfect because I feel like there is a lot going on in this spread. So I'm just going to grab my red line tape, my 1/4 of an inch red line tape, and that's what I'm going to use to get this adhered to the back of this die cut tree. And I think that might be the last thing that I do for this particular spread. Actually, it's not. I am going to fill in some stamping on the back of this label, this Avery Index label. If you watched my last video, you may have noticed that the date stamp I did on the other side, I had written December 10th, 2025, and that's definitely the wrong date. So I corrected that, but when I corrected it, I messed it up again. So I just taped it to a piece of red scrap paper and then stuck that in on the other side. And then that sentiment that I put on there, I think said, "Our tree." And that's what I'm going to end up titling this spread when I put it into my table of contents. I'm also grabbing back the rest of my story 8, and I'm going to use one of my journal clips to adhere, or not adhere, but keep that transparency in place so I can really finish that particular spread as well, because I did need to still staple down that ribbon. So I am done here. I'm going to get this put back in my album. I believe I also do another flip up once everything's stapled in of that transparency on page 8, just to make sure it's working correctly, and it is. I love the way that one came out, and I love the way story 9 looks and the way that it came out. If you made it to the end of this video, leave me a Christmas tree emoji in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!